right now.
All right. So I'm Ashley Stinson. I am your Regional Sales Vice President, otherwise known as External Wholesaler, representing Bright House Financial. So I've been in the Houston area for about a year and a half now, and I cover the whole state of Texas. So like Nick mentioned, I am in San Antonio right now, and I just love traveling around this state. Each city has its own unique personality, but Houston is home for me now. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. Like I said, there are people on here who have done business. Most recently, Marquis just had a check come in today. So thank you, Marquis. Give him a round of applause there. He's been working hard on getting some business in, and he's helping a lot of people out. And we would love to help you do the same. Now, you can imagine, as I travel around the whole state of Texas, I have a lot of conversations with people. I have conversations with a lot of financial professionals, only with Primerica. I'm exclusive to you guys, but also sometimes clients. And there's a common denominator. Everybody has a unique situation for their retirement and a unique picture for what that looks like. Now, the thing everybody has in common, though, is they have questions about Social Security. They want to know, I mean, first of all, is it even going to be around? For younger people, they're wondering if it's going to be around by the time they retire. Right now, a lot of older people are scared too. The news certainly doesn't help us with that. But there are other questions too, like, if we are about to retire, should we wait? Should we keep working? I mean, there's all kinds of variables, and there's no one size fits all solution for anybody, even when it comes to Social Security. So I think that this presentation that we're about to do today is so important. It's important for you guys to know, and it's important for clients to know too. Of course, today we are speaking to you all as financial professionals, and it is our hope that after today you'll have a more solid understanding of Social Security, and maybe you'll even have some nuggets to take away and have some better conversations with your clients. So I said I wouldn't take up too much time. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker today, Thomas Rowley. He has, oh gosh, Tom is such a wealth of knowledge. A few of you have seen him speak before. Tom has been talking to Primerica audiences for over 20 years, and he was the most requested speaker from the Primerica system when he was at Invesco before coming to Bright House. And frankly, guys, I don't know anyone better to talk about Social Security. So without any further ado, let's all give up a hand for Thomas Rowley.
All right. Thank you very much. Ashley, can you see the screen understanding Social Security?
I can.
All right, then that means we're ready to go. We're going to talk about Social Security tonight. And I find that Social Security is not that difficult to understand until you apply it to real life. So theoretically, it's very easy to understand. When you apply it to real life, then it suddenly becomes what's the right answer? And the right answer is always what's ever the right answer for you. So what we're going to do is housekeeping notes, as we talked about a little bit earlier. We're going to hold all questions to the end. Probably a good time to remind you that although well-reasoned and insightful, the opinions expressed here are not necessarily those of Bright House. Remember that past performance, no guarantee of future performance, and don't be silly. We don't provide tax and/or legal advice. And here's your agenda. I'm going to give you an overview of Social Security. But tonight, we're really going to talk about the retirement benefits. So if you think about it, I'm going to give you an overview of things we're not going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about things we're not going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about things that we are going to talk about, and then we're going to apply it to real life, and that's under things you should consider. But we're going to start with Social Security overview, and if you look at your screen, you see the four categories: retirement, spousal, survivor, disability. We're not going to talk about disability tonight. Disability could be, excuse me, its own seminar, right? So we won't be talking about disability tonight. Survivor benefits. Notice there's a little icon. It looks like an adult and a child. We will be talking about surviving spousal benefits, but we will not be talking about survivor child benefits. If you went out and got hit by a bus, God forbid, and you died, and you have kids under the age of 18, they do get benefits. We won't be talking about that tonight. But we will be talking about spousal survivor benefits, and we will be talking about spousal benefits, and we will be focusing in on retirement benefits. Excuse me, second webinar of the day. Losing my voice already. So the retirement benefits, Social Security will provide you with an inflation-adjusted, guaranteed lifetime income for you and your spouse. It is one of the few things that you can say is an inflation adjusted, guaranteed lifetime income for you and your spouse. But what you should know is that Social Security was designed to just keep you out of poverty, just above the poverty level. It was designed as a social safety net. And so hopefully you have other sources of income, whether they're 401ks or 403bs or pensions or annuities, perhaps personal savings and inheritance, maybe the sale of a business. Hopefully you have all these other sources of retirement income. And tonight, we're not going to talk about those other sources of retirement income. But with your client, what you'll be talking about is sort of coordinating, if you will, not only when do you take Social Security, but when do you start retirement distributions for your 401k or 403b, or when do you take it with your traditional IRA or Roth IRA? So tonight, we're just going to focus in on the Social Security retirement benefits, but hopefully there are all sorts of other retirement benefits that you can have, right? So let's talk about Social Security retirement benefits. Now, when you talk to people about Social Security, one of the first things that you'll find is it's a triggering event for retirement. So when you want to retire, one of the first things you say is, how much will I get from Social Security? In fact, that's the question that they want answered most is, how much will I get? And so tonight we're going to talk about first, how do they figure out how much I get? And then we're going to talk about when will you start collecting, which will determine how much you get. And how do they figure out how much I can get? You don't really have to worry about the mathematics behind it, but I go through the explanation because later when we get to the questions and answers, most of the answers are based upon how did they figure that out, right? And so when will you start collecting is based upon your age, right? And so the one thing I will say a couple of times, probably about 10 times, is write this down, go to ssa.gov. That's the Social Security Administration it's their website, Social Security Administration ssa.gov. And you can pull up your own work record, right? And so basically, this is how Social Security works. Every paycheck that you get, you contribute 6.2% of your earnings into Social Security, up to an earnings cap of $168,600, which is the 2024 earnings cap. The earnings cap goes up every year. So every paycheck you get, you contribute 6.2% of your earnings. Your employer also contributes 6.2% of your earnings up to the earnings cap of $168,600, which is the 2024 number. And if you're self-employed, you put in the entire 12.4% because you are both the employer and the employee. And so, as I was saying, the Social Security website, ssa.gov, I'm going to say it about 10 times tonight. You should be going there because what it does is it allows you to go in and put in your Social Security number, and you get to take a look at your work record or your earnings record. And here I have on the right side of the screen, I have a hypothetical. It's just made up, right? But you can go into ssa.gov, you put in your Social Security, you got to go do your secret ID number, secret ID password, right? Don't tell me it's a secret. And you'll get to see your earnings record. And it'll look just like this. There's 3 columns: work year, earnings tax for Social Security, and earnings tax for Medicare. And every year that you worked, you'll have the amount of money that you earned for Social Security, then the amount of money you earned for Medicare. And you might be thinking, wait a minute. And so let's take a look at the first box there. 2023 is highlighted in purple. And it says the earnings tax for Social Security was $160,200, but the earnings tax for Medicare was $200,000. What that means is this person earned $200,000, but there's no earnings cap on Medicare. But the earnings cap for Social Security for 2023 was $160,200. And so when you look at your own work record, what you'll see is all dollar amounts, but you may see them different in the column for Medicare and Social Security. And the reason is Medicare does not have an earnings cap. Social Security has an earnings cap. In fact, just for my hypothetical, those are the earnings caps for all those years, all the way down to 2012. And you can see that the earnings cap's gone up every year. And then notice in 2011, 2010, there are zeros. Well, when you look at your work record at ssa.gov, you might see zeros. And there's a couple of reasons you might see zeros. One is if you didn't work, right? When I got out of college, I went to find myself. And later I found myself on a beach in California, and I hadn't worked that year. And then I had to go home and get a job because I had no more money. And so if you look at my work record, it has got a zero on the year after I graduated from college. But there are also certain occupations that if you are in, that you will get a zero. The first one is if you work for the railroads. If you have a job with a railroad, the railroad retirement pension is older than Social Security. Social Security came about in like 1935, but the railroad retirement program is older than that. In fact, Trivial Pursuit, the Social Security program was designed on the retirement railroad program or the railroad retirement program. But if you're paying into the pension for railroad, you're not paying into Social Security. So also, if you're a police officer, firefighter, you work for the state of Texas, you're a teacher, then you're paying into the pension of that occupation and not into Social Security. So my oldest son is a teacher in Illinois, and so he's paying into the Illinois Teachers Pension Association, and so he would have 0, 0, zeros all after college. I mean, he worked jobs before college, but after college he became a teacher. So I bring that up because you're going to look at your work record and you're going to see all the money you earned all those years. And the first thing you'll be thinking is, what did I do with all that money? And then you'll realize that, well, you've been contributing to Social Security. So if you see zeros, there's a reason for the zero. You might not have worked. You might be working for the railroads. You might be working for the state. Okay. Now, I'm going to go through the math that they go through to figure out how you get your benefit. And I'll cover it on the screen here, right? That basically what they do is they take all of your earnings, they adjust each year for inflation because Social Security is inflation adjusted. So they adjust each year for inflation. They pick your highest 35 years. And then they divide by 420, which is the number of months in 35 years. And that gives you your average index monthly earnings, AIME. And then they apply the Ben formula to come up with your primary insurance amount. And the Ben formula, basically, it looks like this, right? You don't have to know how it works. I mean, you don't have to know the numbers, but basically what it does is if you were a low-wage earner for most of your career, Social Security will give you a higher percentage of your earnings, of your pre-retirement earnings. Now, if you made more money, you get more money. But you'll hear people say, oh, Social Security will give you about 30% of your pre-retirement income. Well, if you were a high-wage earner, it's going to give you less than 30%. If you're a low-wage earner, it's going to give you more than 30%. But your rule of thumb is Social Security gives you about 30% of your pre-retirement income. So I go over the math, if you will, just to show you that it's not rocket surgery, for crying outside. That basically all they do is they take all your years of earnings, adjust each year so it's adjusted for inflation, pick your highest 35, divide by 420, which is the number of months in 35 years, and then they apply the Ben formula, and that's how they get your PIA, your primary insurance amount. The other reason I tell you about this is when you go to ssa.gov, they say primary insurance amount about 40, 50 times. They never tell you how they came up with PIA. And I was like, well, how did they come up with that number? Right? And so that's how they did it. All they did was they picked your highest 35 years, adjusted each year for inflation, divided by 420, apply the Benn formula, boom, that's your PIA. So basically, that's what they'll say on the SSA.gov website is what's your primary insurance amount? And that's the basis for your retirement benefit. And the only thing that you have to decide is when will you start collecting? Now, when you start with those questions, when will you start collecting? There's probably a bunch of other questions that you might come up with too. Do I need the income right away? Will I continue to work? What other income sources do I have? Is there longevity in my family or my spouse's family? Is my spouse provided for? Will Social Security be around? Ashley threw this question out a little bit earlier. Will it be around? And you might have seen the headlines. They're saying that the Old Age and Survivor Insurance Trust Fund, the OASI, which is the retirement benefits, can pay full benefits till 2033. And then if there's no legislative changes, they can't pay full benefits. Anybody sitting on the call might be thinking, wait a minute, 2033, that's right around the corner. So, and I've heard people say, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign up right away and get my money before they run out. And I would say there's a couple of reasons why you might want to collect early. Social Security running out of money is not one of them because, well, listen, we've been through this before. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, 1980s, they were worried that Social Security was going to run out of money in like the year 2010. And so back in 1983, they passed the Social Security Act of 1983. And they made Social Security solvent for another generation, or 2033, right? Actually, they thought they were going to make it to 2040, but we fooled them all by staying alive, right? Now, the reason I bring this up now is it's an election year. It's a presidential election year. And a time-honored tradition in the presidential election year is let's scare the old people, right? And so they tell you crime is really bad and everyone's going to come and try to kill you. And then Social Security, this party's going to private. That's all noise. So I'm going to go over some of the things that they did in 1983 to show you, one, that the changes are going to be incremental and generational, meaning small changes over long periods of time, and that more than likely they will get to their legislative changes, but more than likely they probably won't get to it till about 2029, which will be after this administration, right? And so I would love to think that they would get after. I would love to think that they would, right as whoever's a new administration, go right after this issue. But in Washington, you never let a crisis go to waste. You always milk the crisis for as much as you can get. So they'll talk about it for a lot, but they probably won't do anything till about the year 2029, just to keep us all on edge. But back in 1983, and one of the things I want you to take away from this is, back in 1983, when they changed the rules, nobody who was collecting in 1983 was impacted by the rule changes. So they're incremental and generational. Let me give you an example. The first bullet point there is, back in 1983, they raised the full retirement age to 67 years old. So everybody on the call probably remembers, well, if you're old enough, you remember that everybody used to collect Social Security at 65. But they raised the full retirement. If you were born after 1960, you can't collect your full retirement, your full benefits till you're 67 years old. So if you think about that, they changed the rule in 1983. The rule will not go into effect until the year 2027. So that's what I mean by small changes over long periods of time. Some of the other things, Social Security benefits became taxable. And we'll go over these. We'll go over each one of these. And working and collecting, they'll withhold some of your benefits. They eliminated the windfall benefits from non-covered employment. They tried to cover more people. The Congress, president, vice president, federal judges were never covered. They started covering them in 1983. So Ronald Reagan was the first president to pay any of his paycheck into Social Security for presidential purposes. But basically, if you wanted to follow the real debate, here's the three main changes that they would talk about. First, they would say, hey, let's increase your payroll taxes. Right now, the payroll tax is 6.2%. Let's increase it to 7.2%. Well, they wouldn't increase it from 6.2 to 7.2% in a year. They'd go 6.2 to 6.4 to 6.6 to 6.7. It would take them a generation to get to 7.2. And I know a lot of people would say, well, I don't want any more taxes. That's crazy. But if I said, hey, guess what? Last year you could put in $6,500 into your traditional or Roth IRA, and this year you could put in $7,000 into your traditional or Roth IRA, and everybody goes, yay! It's the same thing. It's the same thing. One of the first things they should do is start calling it payroll contributions rather than payroll taxes. But hey, the wage cap. So they've already proposed raising the wage cap to $250,000. If they did that rule change alone, if they raised the wage cap on Social Security to $250,000, that rule change alone would keep Social Security solvent till about the year 2048. Right now, they're not going to try to fix Social Security for till the year 2100 for all time. They're just going to try to fix Social Security till about the year 2060 or so, and then each generation will have the same exact problem, right? Or one of the things they said is, hey, let's make this super easy for everyone to understand. Let's eliminate the wage cap, just like Medicare. And if they did that, Social Security would be solvent until about the mid 2050s, 2056 or something like that. Or let's continue to raise the retirement age from 67 to 69 or 70. And this is what they're doing with the required minimum distribution age for IRAs. It used to be 70 and a half, then it was 72, now it's 73, and in 2033 it goes to 75. And so basically, it's that they're not going to pick one of these things to do. They're going to do all of them in little ways. And so under the potential strategy, the phrase I want you to walk away with is incremental and generational changes. It will take small changes over an entire generation, and they will fix Social Security. If I could say it this way, the number one voting bloc in America today, old people. The number one benefit for old people, Social Security. What politician do you think is going to vote against the biggest voting bloc in America and take away the benefits? They're not. They will do incremental and generational changes to make Social Security solvent for another generation, just like they did in 1983. Okay, so let's go back to our question here. We know the real question is, how do they figure it out? No, the real question is, what's your primary insurance amount? And your PIA, that's your answer to how do they figure out and so then the question becomes, when will you start collecting? But the real question is, when will you start collecting compared to your full retirement age? So let's cover full retirement age. Your full retirement age is now between the years 66 and 67 based upon the year of birth. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, you can see top line, your full retirement age is 66 years old. And then if you were born in 1955, it's 66 and 2 months, 66 and 4 months, 66 and 6 months, 66 and 8 months, 1959 and 66 and 10 months. If you were born in 1960 or later, it's age 67. Okay? So, a good time to remind you, Social Security is a monthly program. You don't have to sign up on your birthday, right? If you signed up today, it starts the month after you sign up. So generally the last week of the month, they sign you up the month after. So here it is, June 25th. If you walked into Social Security today, said, I want to sign up, your check would start August 1st. If you signed up June 5th, it would start July 1st. It always starts the month after. But it's a monthly program, meaning that you don't have to get it on your birthday. You don't have to get it exactly. In fact, you can collect as early as age 62. Notice out to the left on that slide. It's early reduced benefit. So if you collect at 62, you can, but you'll get reduced benefit. And I'll show you what that means in a second. But 63, 64, 65, and I was born in 1960, so my full retirement age is 67 years old. And if I wait, I can get delayed retirement credits, 68, 69, 70. There's never any reason to wait till after age 70 to collect because there's no increase in benefit. But let me show you what I mean by collecting early. I'm going to show you the same chart, the same information, and we're just going to do a little bit different. Now, this is based upon me because I did the chart. So I was born in 1960. My full retirement age is 67 years old. And then my PIA comes out to $1,500. It doesn't really. The average Social Security paycheck this year was $1,650. And compliance didn't want somebody to think they were going to get a tremendous amount of money from Social Security. So they ran the example at $1,500, all right? Which is not too far off the average, but a little bit below average. But, and so this, you can see right in the center of the screen, somebody who collects at 67, and they're going to get $1,500, that they would get 100% of their benefit. Now, they could collect as early as age 62. They would get $1,050 a month or 70% of their benefit. If they collected at age 63, they'd get $1,125 or 75% of the benefit. 64, 80% or $1,200. 65, 86% or $1,290. 66, 93% or $1,395. Again, at 67, which is full retirement age for this person, they get 100% of their benefit or $1,500. If they wait and they collect at 68, they'll get $1,620 or 108% of benefit. If they wait till 69, they get another 8% raise or 1,740. And if they get all the way to the bottom there, they would collect $1,860. It's an extra 8%. Now, you can always collect at age 62, right? So if you're thinking about it, you're getting a smaller check, but you're getting more checks, right? And that's how the system works, right? If I wait till age 67, I'll get a bigger check, but obviously I may not get as much, I won't get as many checks, right? And so I want to show you this information one more way here. Take a look at this. This is the same information. If the person who collected at age 62 was, see, they got $1,050 or $12,600 per year. And then the person who collected at age 67 got $1,500 a month or $18,000 a year. And the person who collected at age 70 got $1,860 a month or $22,320 a year. And if you go all the way to the right, that's how much they've collected at age 90. Now, obviously, if you live past age 90, you'll continue to collect, but we had to stop somewhere on the right side of the page here. But if you started at age 62, getting $12,600 a month, at age 90, you would have collected $365,400 total. If you collected $18,000 starting at age 67, you would have collected by age 90, $432,000. And if you waited till age 70 and got all those delayed retirement credits and were collecting $22,320 a year, you would have collected $468,720. So most financial planning webinars, seminars will always go to the right and say, don't leave that money on the table. But what I want you to do is focus in right at the center of the page. That's your break-even point. And your rule of thumb is break-even age is 80. And that's just a rule of thumb because technically it might come out to be 80 and a half or 79 and a half or 79 or 81. But your rule of thumb, for our purposes, you've collected the same amount of money at age 80, no matter when you started. And so if you die before age 81, it doesn't matter. You've collected the same amount of money, right? In fact, from a financial planning point of view, if you could just tell us when you're going to die, it would make the whole calculation so much easier. we could make sure that you bounce the last check to the undertaker, right? And so I bring this up because Social Security is trying to solve for longevity risk, right? And so if you don't live to age 80, then it doesn't matter when you start. If you live way past age 80, it does matter because that's where the lines all start to widen out, you see? So, and you know, if I had a husband and wife in front of me, and Social Security was designed for a married couple where the husband worked, the wife stayed home and took care of the kids, and the husband died before the wife. And if I had husband and wife in front of me across the kitchen table, and I said to him, listen, you want to know the easy answer to the question? The question is to the husband, are you trying to prioritize the amount of money you collect during your lifetime, or are you trying to prioritize the amount of money left behind for the surviving spouse? And they almost always say, I'm prioritizing the money left behind for the surviving spouse because they're sitting right next to her and they don't want to say it's all about them, right? So, but if you're prioritizing what's left behind for the surviving spouse, then what happens is you collect at age 70, you would collect all the delayed retirement credits and they would pass on to the surviving spouse upon your death. But so what Social Security is doing is they're providing, they're guarding against longevity risk. Now, if you're a male and you're born in the United States today, your life expectancy is 73 years old. If you make it to 65, your life expectancy is 82. Female, 79 at birth. If you make it to age 65, life expectancy is 85. If you're a married 65-year-old couple, there's a 47% chance that one of the partners will live to age 90. And there's a 20% chance that one of the partners will live to age 95. Obviously the same partner, right? But, and so you notice those ages, male age 82, female age 85, Social Security break-even point is about age 80, rule of thumb, age 80, right? And so what happens is after age 80, the numbers start to widen because they're protecting against longevity risk. They're protecting against living to a really old age, right? And traditionally, that has been the female, right? Traditionally, a married couple is the man stayed at home, or the man went to work, the woman stayed at home and took care of the kids, and the man dies early and the woman lives long. And in order to be not a burden on their family, Social Security is designed, if you will, for the older woman. In fact, the poster child in the 1930s of a poor person in the United States was an old woman. And so Social Security has been successful because today the poster child for a poor person in the United States is an actual child, which is another whole different problem we're not going to talk about today. Okay, but so now you have a pretty good idea of how Social Security works, right? Mathematically, what they do is they take all your earnings, adjust each year for inflation, pick your highest 35, divide by 420, which is the number of months in 35 years, apply their Bend formula. That brings you to your PIA. And then your PIA determines, or what determines how much you collect, and when you collect is based upon when you claim. So let's cover some of the things that you should consider. First one, I always like to remind people, Social Security is inflation adjusted. Since 1975, Social Security benefits have a cost of living adjustment, or COLA. They're automatic, and you'll see them, and they're always listed as COLA, C-O-L-A, cost of living adjustment. In fact, here's a decade from 2013 to 2023 I've got on the screen, and it's a good decade to show you the example. Look at 2015, 0.0%. There was no inflation, so there was no increase in your Social Security check. Look at 2022, 8.7% increase. Lots of inflation, so Social Security check went up by 8.7%. And basically, inflation basically just says that things cost more, and even a slight little cost increase in the cost, but over a long period of time, is meaningful, right? I mean, we used to say, and if you're old enough on this, you'd be like, I remember when you could get into a movie for $5, right? That's inflation. Now it's whatever, $20. I don't know what it is. And so basically, inflation is the first thing, because when you run scenarios, when you run the calculators, they never have cost of living adjustments in there because they don't know what inflation will do. But even a little bit of inflation over a long period of time is meaningful to retirement income. Taxation, okay? Back in 1983, one of the things they said, in order to make Social Security solvent for another generation, they said that if you have if you are married and filing jointly, and you have between 32,000 and 44,000, which is my triangle on the right, see the 32 and the 44. If you have an income, a provisional income between 32,000 and 44,000, up to 50% of your Social Security is taxable. And you might be thinking, I've never heard of provisional income. That's because they made it up in 1983, right? And what they do is, you can see the calculation for provisional income on your left-hand side. They take your adjusted gross income, wages, dividends, capital gains, retirement distributions from 401ks, from IRAs, not Roth, business income, plus tax-exempt interest, plus 1/2 of your Social Security benefit equals your provisional income. So if you're married and you're filing jointly and you make more than $44,000 and in provisional income, up to 85% of your Social Security is taxable. Now, the first thing clients are going to say to you is, I didn't know Social Security was taxable. Yes, it is. And that's how I know that Social Security will never go under, if you will. So if the federal government, they're going to come out and they're going to say, listen, you're going to get everything that you deserve. You're going to get everything that you've earned. We're just going to figure a way to tax it all back, right? In fact, if I was here, if I was representing the federal government, I'd say, listen, our job is to figure out ways to tax you in such a way that you can't figure out how we've taxed you, right? And provisional income is a really great way. You've never been in a cocktail party where people are like, have you seen the calculation for provisional income? I can't believe it. It's ridiculous. No, they don't say that because nobody knows, right? And think about this. Think back to 1983 when they made provisional income up. What are they taxing? Your tax-exempt interest. So back in 1983, when they made the rule, they said, what do a lot of people have that we're not taxing? And the answer is municipal bonds. Because, well, Roth didn't exist back then. HSAs didn't exist. 529s didn't exist. The only thing that you could buy that gave you tax-exempt interest was municipal bonds. And so they said, well, let's tax it. And so now, Trivial Pursuit, the numbers you see here, 25,000, 32,000, 34,000, 44,000, those are the numbers they used starting in 1983, 1983. And so nobody was taxed on their Social Security benefit back in 1983. But over 40 years of inflation, and now 1/3 of Americans are being taxed on their Social Security benefit. Watch that to go up, right? All you need, more and more people are earning that money because inflation, a little bit of inflation over a long period of time. So Social Security is taxable. Now, there's 3 people I want to talk about: your spouse, your ex-spouse, and your widow or widower, right? To cover this, I'm going to give you an example. I've been married for 35 years. I'm not brave enough to call my wife a non-working spouse, but the Social Security Administration is. She stayed at home and took care of those little brats we raised. They're out there. Be careful. And so now when she goes to collect her Social Security, and she can collect as early as age 62, that she will either get 100% of her PIA or 50% of my PIA, whichever is higher. And they will always give you the higher of the two amounts, right? And so basically now, if she collects at age 62, she gets a reduced benefit. Why? She's getting smaller checks, but she's getting more of them, right? So no matter what benefit you go to claim, if you claim at age 62, you get a reduced benefit. Claim it at 63, reduced benefit. 64, reduced benefit, right? And so everything is always based upon your full retirement age. When are you collecting versus compared to your full retirement age? So she can always collect at age 62, but her full retirement age is age 67, right? And so if she waits till 67, she'll get 100% of the benefit. And the benefit is either A, 100% of her PIA or 50% of my PIA. I'm telling you, 50% of my PIA will be higher than 100% of hers. And so she will collect 50% of my PIA. Now, at the bottom in the box, it says deemed filing. And I'll go over deemed filing in a second. But I want to go over divorce benefits. If you were married and the marriage lasted for 10 years and the divorce has been final for 2 years and you're both 62 years old, then the ex-spouse has the same rights as the spouse. If I was married for 10 years and I got divorced, so let's say I got married at age 20, I got divorced at age 30, and we're both 62 years old, my ex-spouse can collect off of she would get 100% of her PIA or 50% of my PIA, whichever is higher, and they would give her the one, whichever is higher. And her collecting off my work record has no impact on my wife collecting off my work record. Okay? Now, just to play the game out for a little bit, let's say that I was married at age 20 and I got divorced at age 30, one ex-wife. I got married at age 30 and got divorced at age 40, two ex-wives. I got married at age 40, I got divorced at age 50, three ex-wives. I got married at age 50, I got divorced at age 60, four ex-wives. I got married at age 60, I'm still married. All five of these people could collect off my work record, and it does not impact anybody else collecting off my work record. And I know what you're thinking. Mathematically, how does that work? And the answer is it doesn't. It doesn't. What you need to know is that when they changed the rules back in 1983, no-fault divorce had just started, right? Irreconcilable differences had just started in the late 70s or in the 70s in California. And now every state has no-fault divorce, right? Irreconcilable differences. You didn't need a reason for divorce. And so in the 80s, there was a spike in divorces. You may have even heard the statistic, 50% of marriages end in divorce. It's not true anymore. And mostly because young people today aren't going through that first marriage. They might be living together or whatnot, but they're not going through the starter marriage, as people were calling it. And so one of the things that happened was this divorce benefit was written in when divorce just took off. Now, when they go to reform Social Security in the year 2030 or whenever, will they reform this? They may, right? But now listen, let's go through this again. Let's say I got married at age 20 and I got divorced at age 30 and she got married again. Well, if she got married again, she collects off of her current spouse, not her ex-spouse. Let's say we got married at age 20, we got divorced at age 30. We both got remarried at age 30 and we both got divorced at age 40. Now she has two ex-spouses. She would collect off the higher benefit of the two ex-spouses. If you've got two ex-spouses, you got to go into the Social Security office and see them. In fact, if you're going in for divorce benefits, you generally should go into the Social Security office because you'd say, here's proof of my marriage. It lasted 10 years. Here's my divorce papers. Here's my driver's license. I'm age 62. They would not even contact your ex-spouse. Your ex-spouse would never know that you're collecting off them. So I say that because you're going to come off against, you're going to meet clients, prospects who were married for 10 years in their younger life. Ashley and I just did a seminar in Duncanville outside of Dallas, and a woman came up and said she had been divorced, married and divorced, age 20 to age 30, and could she collect off of his work record? And the answer is yes. It was yes. And so also divorce benefits are deemed benefits. And what that means is when you're filing for your retirement or your spousal benefit, you're required to file for both. And they'll give you the higher one, right? But that's because before 2015 or before 2016, there used to be all these sort of strategies you could use, file and suspend and do this and do that. They got rid of all of them in 2016, and with good reason. When in 2016, when they said we're getting rid of all these, because they said, hey, listen, this is a rich person's game. If you had the money that you could play the game and you could try to game the system, and they said Social Security is not a system designed for you to game, right? It's a system designed to keep women out of the poverty, out of poverty in their older years. Now, what has also happened since they wrote the rules back in 1983 is women have joined the workforce at a higher and higher rate. And so what you'll find today is my daughter's making more money than my sons are, right? And so when she goes to collect Social Security, she'll be the person who has got the higher earnings, right? So it's not necessarily, it was designed on a system in the 1930s of the man going to work, the woman staying home. That may not be the system that you got today. And when they go to rewrite the rules, that's what they'll do. Now, when they go to rewrite the rules, it won't impact anybody who's collecting, right? So let's go to benefits for widows. A widow, a surviving spouse, can collect as early as age 60. Now, if they collect at age 60, they get a reduced benefit. But the surviving spouse's benefit is they collect 100% of the deceased worker's benefit amount, including delayed retirement credits, which is what we talked about earlier. If you want to give the surviving spouse the biggest benefit, you wait till age 70, you'll get all your delayed retirement credits, and then quietly pass away the next morning when she hands you that cup of coffee, and you're like, what's in this? Anyway, 100% of the deceased worker's benefit amount. Now, what happens is my wife starts collecting, right? She'll get 50% of my PIA or work record. I'll get 100% of my PIA or work record. When I die, she will move up to 100% of mine, but she will lose her check. Nobody collects two checks. You only get one check in Social Security. There's never any way that you can get more than one check at a time. And so if you're younger, I'll give you an example. This happened to my sister. My oldest sister was 60 years old. Her husband was 60 years old. He died of cancer. And they said to her, well, you're 60 years old. You can start collecting now, but you'll get a reduced benefit. If you wait till your full retirement age, and her full retirement age was 66, you'll get 100% of his benefit. Now, he obviously didn't live long enough, so he didn't get any delayed retirement credits, but he got his 35 years, right? He qualified for Social Security. And so she could say, well, I'm going to collect at age 60, I'll get a reduced benefit. But what she said was, I'm going to collect at age 66, I'll get 100% of his benefit. Now, at age 62, she started collecting her own benefit because at the bottom of the screen, deemed filing does not apply to the widow's benefit. Okay? So that means you can, if you're a surviving spouse, you can collect your own benefit and then switch to the surviving spouse's benefit, or the other way around. She could have collected her surviving spouse's benefit at age 60, and let hers grow until age 70 and collect delayed retirement credits and then switch to hers. So that's what deemed filing does. It allows you to play a strategy. And it's the only place you can use it is surviving as a widow or widower, right? And also, if you remarry after age 60, you can keep your widow's benefit, right? And so if your husband dies, you start collecting your widow's benefit and you get remarried, you can keep your widow's benefit. Or you could move to your current spouse. Because once you're married for a year, and if that spouse's benefit is higher, if 50% of his PIA is higher, then you would collect that. And I say his, but it could be her, right? Because the federal government, Social Security, recognizes same-sex marriage, but they do not recognize common law marriage. Certain states recognize common law marriage, but Social Security is a federal government program. It recognizes same-sex marriage, but not common law marriage. Okay? So we have the spouse, the ex-spouse, and the widow or widower. And so there's one more thing I want to cover, and then we'll open it up for questions. If you work while you're collecting your benefits, there's an impact on it. Now, look at the slide, 3 columns. After FRA, after full retirement, is in green, and it says no limit on earnings, starts the month of full retirement age. So if I work until I'm 67 years old, and then I collect at age 67, I could continue to work, and there's no impact on my earnings, right? If I earn over 44,000, will I get taxed? Will my Social Security get taxed? Yes, it will, but there's no withholding. Now, in the year of full retirement or before full retirement, there's withholding. So let's go to the orange before full retirement age. If you earn more than $22,320, and this is a 2024 number, so it goes up every year, and you're collecting, they're going to withhold $1 for every $2 above the limit. So let's go to an example. Bob receives $1,050 a month. Remember that chart I had? You know, if you waited 15, he would have gotten $1,500 at age 67, but he started collecting at age 62, so he's getting $1,050 in monthly benefits. He earns $24,920, which is $2,600 over the limit. So Social Security is going to withhold $1,300, $1 for every $2 over the limit. But what you need to know is Social Security withholds all theirs up front. So they're going to withhold his entire January check and part of his February check. And then he's going to call him and go, what's going on? Now, Social Security is going to give Bob back his $1,300 at his full retirement age, but they're not going to give it to him in one check of $1,300. They're going to give it to him in an actuarial way over the rest of his life in his Social Security check. His Social Security check will go up by like $12.50. I don't know what the actual number is, and so Social Security withholds all theirs up front, but they give it back to you in an actuarial way. And so what happens is you're gonna see this. People started collecting at age 62 the moment they can. The reason most people collect at age 62 is they need the money. So they start collecting the moment they can because they need the money. And then they realize they're not getting enough and they need to go back to work. And then 22,320 is just a little bit above minimum wage. And so they're earning money, and then Social Security withholds the money. And they go, what? And they go, nobody ever told me that. And that's why I told you that. So Social Security withholds the money up front, but when they give it back to you, they don't give it back to you in one lump sum check. They spread it over for every month. And so you're quite surprised. Most people are quite surprised by that. And then some caveats here. Spousal earnings affect only their own benefit. Social Security doesn't count government benefits or investment earnings or interest or pensions or annuities or capital gains. It's basically W-2 income. Or, if you're running your own business, the income counts when you earn it, not when you receive it, unless you're self-employed. Then it counts when you receive it, not when you earn it. So you can't play the game where you're moving money saying, I'll collect it next year. They'll never know. They're the federal government. They know. And then the last thing, Social Security Administration reviews your work record annually. So if you keep working, you may get rid of one of your lower years with a higher year. And so Social Security refigures your benefit every year and may increase. Then if you get rid of one of the lower years with a higher year, they increase your benefit starting in the December of the following year. So one of the reasons to keep working is just so that I get rid of those zeros after college, right? So what you'll find with Social Security is when you start to talk about it, it opens up all these questions. Do I need the income right away? Will I continue to work? Is there longevity in my family or my spouse's family? If you're not going to make it past 80, it doesn't matter. Collect it as soon as you can. But if you're going to continue to work, don't collect. Unless you're aware that they're going to withhold up front. So what I'd like to do is open it up for questions.
This was amazing. Fantastic information as always. This is my second time seeing it, and I can tell you right now, it reinforced a lot of the things you said. But I mean, just seeing it a second time helped me because I thought I understood some things, but then just listening to you do it again, it just made it make more sense to me. I know we got some teammates that have some questions, but I got the mic right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask my question first. So let me get this. Let me see if I understand this correctly, because I have clients that they bounce this question off of me, and I was like, you know what, I don't know. Let me find this out for you, and I want to find this out for them once and for all. So I have clients that they're not full Social Security age. They're not 60. Their full Social Security age is like 67. They're like 63, 64, but they're receiving income from their investments, pensions. They're receiving that. The question is, okay, if I turn this Social Security income on, they're like, if I turn this on, do I have this correct? The income that they receive from their investments and their pension, it will not reduce their Social Security benefit. That income doesn't impact the reduction of the Social Security benefit because it's not W-2 income, but it can impact whether or not their Social Security benefit is taxed. Am I correct in saying that? Okay.
Correct. You are absolutely correct. You can and that's basically the position you want to be in, is to have other sources of income, and the financial professional telling you, start this one, let's do this one, let's do this one. And you just want to make sure, as you're doing now, that it doesn't impact. And so you can collect a pension and Social Security does not impact. The only ones that you might, if you collect a pension, that might be surprised is if they work for the state of Texas and they're in the, what's the TPS, Texas Pension System, TPS. They will not get the same amount from Social Security, and it goes back to that Bend formula, and they do the Bend formula different because it appears that you're a low-wage worker, but you weren't, right? But you're exactly correct on the question is, you can get a pension, your investments can be paying him, you could have annuities. It does not impact your Social Security benefit, but it may impact the taxation of Social Security.
Got it. Is there any point to where the Social Security benefit will be tax exempt regardless of the monthly amount that you're receiving from your investments, or it doesn't matter? like, is it an age, like you'll age out of it, like at age 70, or it doesn't matter if you're 70 or older, you still could be susceptible to the benefit being taxed based on
Right. It's an income level.
Got it.
So get rid of all your other income, live on Social Security alone, and you can feel what poverty is like.
Gotcha. All right, good stuff. I mean, that was my question. What I want to do, Tom, if you can unshare your screen, that way I can kind of see everybody in a gallery format. And we can get some of their questions answered. Guys, if you have a question, just put your emoji up on your screen, raise your hand and stuff like that, and I can kind of call on you. Okay, I see Frida has a question. Mom, okay, I'm gonna do Frida first, then Mom, I'm gonna come to you. Frida, if you're able to unmute yourself, go ahead and ask Tom your question.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Excuse my my camera. But I am 62. I am divorced, but I remarried. So I'm trying to get this in my brain. I only get the PMI of my husband if his is higher than mine, correct? My
Correct.
present
So
husband.
you will have a choice. You'll get 100%, and you won't have a choice. The choices are 100% of your PIA or 50% of your spouse's PIA. Whichever is higher, you'll get the higher amount.
Okay. That's what I want to make sure. Thank you
And
so
if
much.
you go to ssa.gov, you can see that you can put in that information and you can see what the higher amount is.
Oh, so there is a spot in there to do that. I know I've played around with my numbers, but I didn't know there was a place to put his information.
Well, I mean, he would have to put in his.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Look over his shoulder.
Gotcha. I got it. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Mom, give us your question.
Tom, I just have to say, I really enjoyed this. You are hilarious. Okay. I love the way you make something very serious and, just bring some humor to it. We need it, right?
Yeah.
I do have a question because, this one, you kind of said it with one scenario, but I wasn't sure if that was the case. So let's say when it comes to, looking to collect benefits, even if you are a widower or divorced and you've got remarried. So this is basically focusing on remarried. Do you have to be remarried or even married for a certain amount of time or a time period before you can collect that spouse's benefit?
Yes. The answer is 1 year.
1 year.
If you were married for less than a year and there was an accident or something, they died, there's provisions for that. But if you're married, your rule of thumb is you have to be married at least 1 year and be at least 62 years old to collect Social Security
at least
off of a spouse. Obviously, you have your own work record, and so if you are not married, you'd collect off of your work record. And if your work record, your PIA, I keep saying work record, but is your primary insurance amount. If your primary insurance amount is higher, 100% of yours is higher than 50% of his or her, then you would collect off yours.
Okay.
So what they're going to do is they're going to pull up two PIAs. They're going to say, here's yours. You can get 100% of that or 50% of his. Well, if 100% of yours is higher, you'll get your benefit.
Right.
If 50% of his is higher, you'll get 50%. You'll get the spousal benefit.
Okay. And so also when it comes to the widow and widower, if you wanted to collect one spouse's for a period of time, let's say you did the early election, and then you allow the other spouses to grow, as the law stands now, what type of process do you have to go through if you want to stop collecting on the current one and start collecting on the other spouses?
Well, you generally, when it gets complicated, you want to go into the Social Security Administration office.
Okay.
One of the things you'll find is you generally go online and make an appointment because the appointments are like a month out. That's, since COVID, they're doing a very slow business in the Social Security office because they're letting you in one at a time. But if you've got any type of complicated system or complicated situation, then you want to go in. And so you want to say, You want to say, I'm married or I'm divorced, I'm a widow, these are my choices. What do I do? And they'll look it up. Like if you were divorced, they wouldn't even tell the other person, right? Because I've heard people say, like, I was divorced or I was married for 10 years and then I got divorced and I never want to talk to that person again. You wouldn't. You would go into Social Security, you would show them your proof of marriage, a marriage certificate, proof of divorce, the court settlement, court decree, a quadro, qualified domestic relations order, and your driver's license that say you're 62. They'd have enough information to look up the other person, and they would say 50% of theirs is higher than 100% of yours. So that's the one you'd get. And
Okay.
they would never know.
Okay. I do want to say something about the common law. Common law marriage is not the law now, but there are certain exceptions where if you come up with certain documentation and proof of the intent of the parties, the Social Security, after a review, they'll make a decision whether or not they will give that person the benefits. See, I have someone give benefits before. So
Yes.
I just wanted, there are certain exceptions to that.
There are certain exceptions, but in general,
In Germany, definitely
they don't
not.
recognize common law marriage.
Right.
Not the way it's recognized by the state. The state, there are certain states that they recognize common law marriage sort of very easily, if I can say it that way. I mean, proof, you prove, boom, 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 here it is. Okay. Federal government, there's no guarantee that Social Security will accept it.
That's correct. That's
So
correct.
I tend to like play it down.
I think that's the best way, but just to let you could try and make the argument and you may be successful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Even in a state that does not recognize common law, but the federal government may under certain circumstances. Thank you so much. This was very informative.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Awesome. Awesome. Auntie, Jackie, talk to us. What's your question?
Thomas, thank you. This was very, very informative. I need to watch it again, so I'm so glad it's recorded. My question is real simplistic, but I still have this question. If someone is a high income earner, is there an amount that someone earns on an annual basis that would preclude them from receiving Social Security? Like, is there a number from earnings that, they cannot get it? Like, or does Social Security, anyone working can get it? Or is there an amount of money that someone may be earning that they could not get Social Security?
Well, the answer is yes and no. And I'll give it to you. So right now for 2024, the earnings cap is $168,600. So if I made $1 million, I only paid into Social Security based on 168,000. And so there's a whole bunch in that example, there's 900,000 or so 800 and something thousand that I didn't get taxed on for Social Security purposes. For Medicare purposes, you do. And so if the maximum I could get from Social Security is to earn the maximum amount for 35 years. And so there are certainly a number of people who do that. If you look back and say, to that first sort of hypothetical, I had all the earnings, they were the maximum earnings. So if I made $168,000 in $169,000 in 2024, I've gotten all my Social Security benefits. Now, obviously, I could earn more money than that, but Social Security won't pay me because they've only taxed me on the $168,600 for this year, and that goes up every year. It goes up every year. So last year was 160,200. Then it was 147,000. So there's a lot of people who max out Social Security by getting 35 years of maximum earnings, and they get Social Security, but they can't get any more, even though they earned $1 million. Social Security doesn't allow you to contribute, more if you're age 50, like your 401k, or they don't let you contribute, based upon your beyond maximum earnings. You can't say, hey, Social Security, I'd like to write you a check. None of that. So it's got to come from your FICA payroll tax. So technically,
Got it.
the answer is yes, but realistically, the answer is no.
No. Are there is there a different set of rules or treatment if it's a 1099 versus a W-2 for the
Not
money
for
coming
social,
in?
not for
No.
Social Security purposes.
Okay.
Dollar
Just
amount,
curious.
yeah.
Okay, just curious. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. Awesome. Awesome. We're gonna go to Bridget and then we're gonna go to you, B-Walk. Bridget, talk to us. What's your question? Hold on, Bridget, unmute yourself real quick.
Okay. So you said if you remarry and after 60 years old, right? What if you remarried before you were 60 years old and now you're eligible to, would you collect or apply for the ex-husbands or
Current
the
husband.
new ones?
Current husband. So if you're married, it's always going to be off your current spouse. So if you were divorced and you have an ex-spouse, but you remarried, now it's off of the current spouse.
Okay. And you said that if you're still working, you can still collect it, correct? But you have to pay it's $1. What did you say?
They'll
$1
withhold
withheld for every $2
over the limit.
over the limit.
And the limit
And that
this year,
limit is what,
22,000. 22, I don't have it in front of me now, but it's like 22,320. So
That's all I can make?
correct. And
Oh,
so
wow.
right. And so that's what this is one of the most shocking things in the presentation is you'll meet people and they started collecting when they were 62 because they needed the money, right? And then they go back to work. And if they earn more than $22,320 this year, they'll withhold $1 for every $2 above the limit. And then they will give it back to you when you hit your full retirement age at either 66 or 67. But they don't give it back to you in a lump. They don't give it back to you in a big check. They spread it out over all your checks in an actuarial way. And so that's the most shocking thing most people find out.
Okay, so it's just useless to do that. I mean, they would be taking probably more than you would be receiving if you are like,
if you're making like 60, 70 grand, then suddenly what you'll find is they're withholding your entire or 6 months of paychecks, right?
Okay.
Now,
right.
Just so you know, you get one undo button. If you've collected for less than a year, you can go to Social Security and say, here's your money back. Let's pretend it never happened.
Okay.
So they give you the one undo. And a lot of people, when they start collecting at age 62 and they find out they're withholding that money and they're not going to give it back to them until they hit full retirement age, they go, oh, I didn't know that. And they give them back their money. You give them back whatever the three or the number of checks you get. And as long as you do it within the first year, they'll pretend like you didn't collect. They'll pretend like it didn't happen. But you got to pay them back the money. So, which is also surprising.
If I wanted to collect on my own, myself, is the limit still the same if I'm working full time?
Yes.
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 Okay.
And that limit goes up slightly, but it won't go up. It's just above minimum wage. When I was in college, I used to work at a funeral home, and they had all these old guys working at the funeral home, and they were tracking how much money they made every hour, and then they would be like, okay, I can only earn this much money, or they're going to withhold, and I don't want that. And so we had this continuous sort of group of old people, old men who would come by, and they would work, and they'd only work for, whatever it was, 3 months or something. And then that was it. They were done for the year because they didn't want to earn the 22,000 or more.
Thank you so much. That was
Yeah.
this is very good.
Yeah. That's the big shock that you'll find. Most people don't know that. And then most people don't know that your Social Security benefits are taxable. They go,
Right.
what? They go, you're giving me back my own money. How could you tax me on it? And we say, welcome to America.
Thank you.
It was Tom's face that did it for me on that one when he said, welcome to America. That was good. We got time for 2 more questions. B-Walk, talk to us, then we're going to go to you, Julia. We'll finish up with you.
Okay, so this is really great information. The question that I have is, at full retirement age, the maximum annual income is $59,520. I took a picture of this. Is there an age where that may change? What if a person lives in their 80s? Is that
No.
that
Wait.
Okay.
And so basically, at the month of your full retirement age, so like if you don't collect until your full retirement age, you earn as much money as you want.
Okay.
And they won't withhold it. And when you hit that full retirement age, so when I hit 67 years old, I can collect Social Security and work as much as I want because there's no more limits. But before my full retirement age, so like when I'm 66, and then it's 59,000 until I hit my birthday on my 67th year. Once I hit my birthday, then I can earn as much money as I want and collect Social Security. So all they were trying to do with that rule is they were trying to demotivate people to not collect early. But it's such a clumsy way to do it that most people are caught by it, as opposed to they don't understand, like, oh, well, wait a minute. Well, if I knew that, I wouldn't have done it. So the day that you hit your full retirement age, and for me, it'll be when I'm 67 years old, I could then start collecting, and I can collect as much as I want and earn as much as I want. And they don't impact that, but it will impact for taxation purposes. I'll get taxed because I'll still be working.
Okay, thank you. Because I actually have a client. We just talked about this. So that helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is so good. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Julia, you have the last question.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Tom. Thank you very much. All of this was so helpful. I had one question. Well, I have a couple of questions. One was regarding military, those people who are getting military benefits. Do they pay Social Security? I'm not sure if they.
Generally, they do. It's your police, firefighters, EMT, people who work for the state. They're working for the federal government, so more than likely they are paying Social Security. That might not be true for everybody, but since 1983, a lot of the federal government employees are paying into Social Security. Before 1983, they were not.
Okay.
So
and
1983 is anyone we know, 1983. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. The other question, and I know you didn't talk about the children, but it was just a pending question in my mind. Do you know of any legislation that may be occurring to up the age for children beyond 18 because of college, people who have, kids in college and,
right. So yeah. The rule is that if the primary breadwinner dies, so to speak, then the children can collect benefits all the way up until they're 18, or I believe until the first year of college, but they don't pay them. I think it's up till age 18. And I don't think that there's any legislation to extend that. I haven't seen any. There's always proposed legislation, and a lot of times proposed legislation doesn't ever turn out to be real legislation. But I've not seen any proposed legislation to say, let's increase that. The theory seems to be, let's just loan them a whole bunch of money and then put them into debt early in life. And so
Absolutely. And the last thing, I just kind of wanted to tag back onto what Rosalind was saying about, I have a client that she was a widow as well as a divorcee. So regarding that, how does that work? I know you said something about the deemed for the widow. So how does that work with in terms of the benefits?
Okay, so I'm assuming she got divorced before she became a widow, right? And so
No, she was yes,
so
yes.
yeah, I mean it'd be
It was it's two separate spouses. It was two different spouses.
Right. And so basically she's now coming up to her full retirement age. She's got an ex-spouse who she was divorced for more than or married more than 10 years, and she's got a widowed spouse, right?
Yes.
And she's not married currently.
No.
And so she would be able to collect the highest benefit off of the two. This is one of those where I would go into the Social Security Administration office, make an appointment, and say, you know, here's proof here's my ex-spouse, here's my deceased spouse, which is a higher benefit. Now, more than likely, the highest benefit will be the deceased spouse, because if you think about it, they collect 100% of the deceased spouse benefit, whereas with the ex-spouse, they're collecting 50% of the PIA, right? So, and again, it depends on when they died and everything, but a lot of times it'll be the deceased spouse's benefit that they will collect off of. And it doesn't matter that they divorced that deceased spouse. As long as they were married 10 years, they're eligible for either ex-spouse benefits or widow benefits, or ex-spouse to widows, meaning I can start collecting off of my ex-spouse and she dies or he dies. I am now collecting off my deceased spouse, right?
Okay.
So more than likely the deceased spouse's benefit will be higher, but it doesn't, he could have not worked a lot of years, right? And the ex-spouse could be a doctor, you know, whatever. And so sometimes you'll find the divorce benefit is higher than the widow benefit. And then if she was a doctor, in our example, her benefit might be higher than the other two. And so they will always pay you the higher benefit. And so she has to go in to Social Security to say, what's the highest benefit, right?
You answered my third question, because that was the wrench, throwing a wrench in it. She's also of age and she just retired.
Right, right. And so generally, if you're collecting, and you're married, like I don't have a complicated thing. I've been married for 35 years. More than likely, I can do it online, and I can just fill in the other information. But if you get a situation like that where I've got an ex-spouse, I've got a deceased ex-spouse, go into Social Security and they'll look up the information for you right there. But you got to have an appointment. And again, the appointment may be a month from now.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Tom, this has been amazing. We really could go on for a while, but just for the sake of time, we've held you hostage for long enough. Let me ask you this. If we do have follow-up questions, you know, is there a way for us to connect with you? Ashley, you're the one got you. Thank you so much, because
what happens is you ask Ashley and she pretends like she knows the answer, then she's typing furiously, and then I type back the answer, then she says it, and you always think she's a cheat.
And then I'm the hero, right?
Hey, that's what it's all about, Ashley. We want you to come out as the hero in this all, because you are the one that pulled this all together to make this a reality. I do have some follow-up questions that I will be sending to you. Ashley, I'll also send you that list. I got it all set up. I'll put it together and get it to you in the morning, so you can have a list of everybody that was a part of this training along with their solution numbers. But family, please do me this favor. Unmute yourself one more time, and you got to give it up for Ashley Stinson and Tom Rowley for the phenomenal job that Tom did. Y'all give it up for him one more time. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Thank you so much. Outstanding job.
We appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
It was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You helped me out so much.
Man, just phenomenal job. Thank you guys so much. Ashley, I'll definitely be in touch with you shortly. Tom, thank you so much for your time as well. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. It is a definite service and an asset to our industry. Man, you are a national treasure. Appreciate that, man.
Hope to see you all at convention.
Will do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
see
see
y'all
you
at
there.
convention. Have a great evening.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
Guys, I told y'all this was their one. This was their one. Such a good trade. I had a client, I hit one of my clients up and I said, hey, I hit my mama. My mom was like, I can't get on. I'm at the dollar store right now. I'm like, mama, get away from the dollar store and get on this meeting. So, because they got questions about Social Security too, man. My parents are that age. But I had a client text me 3 questions. I'm like, I can't give them these 3 questions. I'm going to just follow with it. But guys, questions that you have, if you want to follow up, Ashley Stinson is our external wholesaler with Bright House. You can get that information to her and all that good stuff. I should have had them put the email in the chat, but you can look Ashley's information up. We can get it to you. If you got a question, just contact me. Marquis is like best buds with her, so he knows her information probably by heart and all that good stuff. But we can get any question that you have. If you have a scenario, a situation, client needs some answers when it comes to Social Security, you don't have those answers, we can get those questions answered for our people. Isn't that awesome, man? I'm excited about that. I don't know about y'all. I'm excited about that. And so with that being said, Heen, I turn it over to you for some quick announcements, then we'll be done.
You guys, thank you for jumping on, for being so great, such great participants in the meeting. It was absolute beneficial, relevant information for